Hey guys, in this video I'm going over the residual plots and line of best fit. So to begin, we're asked to complete each table using the given linear regression. So in these, we're not having to find our linear model, we're just given it. So we are not having to we're not having to plug in our actual, we're just being able to jump to finding our predicted values. Now by hand, we could go through and plug in each of these x values into our linear regression line to get our predicted value. This would look like this. Y equals 0.5 times 5. Or you can use parentheses to plug that 5 in. That would get you also the 2.5. Now to use your calculator, this becomes very simple. So you would turn on your calculator. You no longer have to go to stat to enter all of your values. You simply go to y equals. You clear out any equation there. And you type in your y equals 0.5 times x. So 0.5 times x. Now to get your predicted values, you go to second graph, and those are your predicted values. And I have already done that right here. Is that go ahead and find if x is 5, 2.5 would be our predicted value, which is right there. And so on and so forth. Now using the calculator to do this, you have to come in here and subtract all of these. So 3 subtract 2.5 gives you 0.5. 4 subtract 5 gives you -1. 9 subtract 7.5 gives you 1.5, and so on and so forth. So to plot your residuals, once you have all your residual values, you're taking your x values and your residuals and creating order pairs to graph them down here. So you have 5, 0.5 as your first order pair, 10, -1, 15, 1.5. Again, I'm just taking my x values and my residual values and creating order pairs. You do not have to show me you know how to do this, but if you have difficulties looking across the table to match up your x and y values for your residual plots, please go ahead and do this. It doesn't take too long to write all of those out. So once I do that, I graph all of them up here. And my question is there a pattern? There's no pattern. Remember, do not overthink it. Do not connect the dots and do not try to create a pattern that's not there. So does the residual plot suggest a linear relationship? Yes, it does suggest a linear relationship because there is no pattern. Now for the second one. The second one is the same steps. So the linear regression equation is already given. Our actual is listed for our residuals, but we're focused on our x values to get our predicted values. So I'm going to go under y equals. I'm going to clear it out, and I'm going to type in the equation that I'm given. Once I do that, I'm going to hit second graph. I'm going to have all of my predicted values. Once I have this, I'm going to go in and copy down the correct y values according to which x values were given on the table. Once I do this, I've got to subtract. So 5 subtract 15.2 gives me that negative 10.2. And it goes on like that. So once you have your residual values, you have whether they are positive or negative. This one we're not really asked to look at the pattern or not. We're just asked what percent of the residual values have a negative value. So we have 1, 2 residual values that are negative, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 residual values overall. So there is 2 out of 5. And if you can't do that math in your head, you've got 2 divided by 5, which is 0.4. And 0.4 translates into 40%. Now for number 3. Number 3, you're using your calculator to type in these values. To start, I created it where 1970 was my 0 year. So all of these changed according to how many years passed from 1970. So 1970 became 0 because there's no years in between 1970 and 1970. In between 1980 and 1970, there was 10 years that passed. In between 1990 and 1970, there was 20 years passed, and so on and so forth. Be wary. After 2000, it goes up by ones. So you're asked, from 2000 to 1970, how many years passed? 30. But then from 2001 to 1970, 31 years passed. Just be wary of that. Especially with EOC questions, they purposely try to trip you up on things like that. So we're going to use our calculator. We're going to go to Stat, Edit. Do make sure before you do this, your diagnostics is on. So second, 0, and you're going to go down to the D's and do diagnostics on. So we're going to go to Stat, Edit, and regardless of where it is, you're going to go over and type in your X values, which is your years. So 0, 10, 20, 30, 31, 2, 33. Now, to clear list, by the way, I don't know if I've shown you yet or not, but clear and then arrow down. Or you can also do clear over the L2 and then enter. So then I'm going to put my population. So I've got 50, 35, 45, 30, 60, 65, and 70. Then I want to go to Stat Calc because I'm going to calculate something, and I'm going to calculate the linear regression. So enter. Remember, mine has the little store instead of some of yours will just have the linear regression showing up. I'm still going to go to Mr. Vars just in case for practice. And then there is my linear regression that I have written. I'm putting in, I'm also writing down my correlation coefficient, which is 0.175 rounded. And that's going to give me a week positive or positive week. It does not matter the order. So for number 4, similar situation. We're having to complete the table. So we're gonna find our line of best fit first. So we're gonna come in here and go to Stat, Edit. We're gonna go over to L2 and clear it, over to L1 and clear it, and go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and type in our actual exam grades, which are Y values, so 66, 72, 74, 84, 94, and 90. Make sure they line up so you don't get an error message. You're going to go to Stat Calc and go down to Linear Regression. Hit enter. Now we're going to be asked a few extra questions because we've got to find our expected or our predicted values. So I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to talk to Mr. Vars. I'm going to ask why Mr. Vars is my function wrong. Enter, 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 enter. And then there's my function, which I've already gotten written down right here. Now, because I'm already at the screen, I'm going to go ahead and skip down to C where it asks for my correlation coefficient, which is 0.903. Once I do this and once I did Mr. Vars, then I can go back to B. B says predict the exam grade of a student who studied for 6 hours. If I click Y equals, there's my function. I'm going to go to second graph and go where X is 6, because that would be my hours studied as my X values. So when X is 6, I've got 99.6, and that would be the expected grade according to the line of best fit. Then we can also go ahead and answer D. D asks, looking at the correlation coefficient, how can you describe it? It should be strong positive. And then we're also going, again, under Y equals, we've got our function. Second graph, we've got our table, and we're filling in all of these expected Y values under the expected grades. Once we do this, we're subtracting our actual and our predicted to get our residuals. So I took 66, subtract 66 to give me 0, 72 minus 71.6, give me 0.4, so on and so forth. We're not asked to do anything else to these values, so this is what I would be checking.